have to be perfect for the next brother and sister and be like, oh, they ain't going through what I'm going through. I must be weird. I must be crazy. No, Christ understands it. That's the love right there. For somebody that died knowing what you went through, that's a friend. You know what I'm saying? That's a brother. That's family right there. They understand what you went through and they died for you. You know what I'm saying? It says he was able to assist. Secure means to assist them that are tempted. So just like I said, if you a thief and you might go to therapy for that, you have a doctor or a therapist that helps you with that, that situation where you're a thief and you're a klepto and you're having a hard time keeping your hands to yourself when it comes to taking other people's things. But the same way, Christ is a doctor. Christ is a therapist. Go to him. Talk to him. That's why you got to have a personal relationship. That's why you got to stay in the scriptures. That's why you got to pray. That's why you got to fast. That's why you got to study. That's why you got to meditate and apply. And then you got to apply. You know what I'm saying? So, just understand that Christ loved you enough to be sent here the same way you was. You know what I'm saying? That's a mystery. That's a mystery that some people just don't want to accept because they want to say, maybe here's another thing. Maybe Christians want to say Christ didn't come the way we came because they don't want to have to live up to that expectation that Christ has for them to be like him. Because, a lot of Christians say that they want to be like Christ. They want to be Christ-like, right? No, they don't. Because deep down, Christ was so spiritual. You know what I'm saying? You want to use that as a reason to say, I can't be perfect, or I can't keep the laws. I can't do this. I can't do that. No, Christ, the truth is right here in Hebrews chapter 2. Christ came here just like you, flesh and blood. You know what I'm saying? Just so he could know what you're dealing with. And he showed you how to beat everything. He showed you how to beat everything. You know what I'm saying? He got so many. Just read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I read the whole book one day. Just read the whole book of Matthew, John, and Luke. You know what I'm saying? He had so many parables, so many ways to tell you how to beat it. You know what I'm saying? The prescription is right here. The prescription is right here. A lot of stuff I was dealing with, I don't have them temptations no more. I don't have the fear. I don't have the doubt. You know what I'm saying? Of course, the devil gonna always try to play tricks on you because that's just part of the trials and battles that he gonna make you doubt. But as soon as that doubt come, man, it don't stay. It don't stay. Not as long as it used to. Not as long as it used to. I'm so focused, so prayed up, so everything, man. I'm ready for the battle, man. You got to be ready for the battle, bro. Exodus 15:3. I always go back to it. The Lord is a man of war. You got to be ready for the battle, bro. You got to practice. You got to study. You got to pray. You got to meditate. You got to fast, and you got to apply. You know what I'm saying? And once you do that, you go to a whole new level. But understand how the war works. Like I told my reel, how the war works. When you elevate to a whole new level of faith and spirituality, the Father is saying, my son waking up, you know what I'm saying? And he telling the devil, go try your best. You can step your game up now. He tell the devil he can step his game up just so he can war with you. Because he want to make you the ultimate soldier. You know what I'm saying? Some of my favorite heroes when I was growing up, Rambo, you know what I'm saying? Sylvester Stallone, really, in anything. The Terminator, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, you know what I'm saying? A lot of other folks, Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know what I'm saying? All these heroes I looked up to in the 80s and 90s. and they ain't got nothing on what the Most High trying to turn us into. And I ain't saying I'm scared to see what I'm gonna turn into, but the more I keep growing and growing, man, I keep this one quote in the back of my mind all the time when I doubt, if I should be, if I'm actually going in the right direction. And the one quote I keep in the back of my mind is, how that quote go? Our greatest fear is not that we fear. How does it go? Our greatest fear is not that. Hey, I forgot how the quote go, but it's like our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate, but we fear that we're more powerful beyond measure. That quote, man, do something to my spirit, bro, because that's how I was feeling. That's how I was feeling when I was running, because it's like, if I keep growing, I know these tests and trials gonna grow too. And it's like I was kind of comfortable with being at the stage I was at, fighting the battles I was fighting. I was comfortable with those battles because they were so small, they were tiny. You know what I'm saying? But it's like the more you grow as a leader, the more you grow in the truth, the more you grow with understanding, faith, and patience, and especially being guided by Christ, keeping these angels around you and understanding how real this walk is, you're going to be tested with more and more. What's that power from Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. It's a scripture like that. To whom much is given, much is required. Man, that's a deep scripture, bro. That's where Moses come in. You got to be meek when it comes to a scripture like that, bro. To whom much is given, much is required. When I take this thing to a certain level, much gonna be required from me from the Father. I'm gonna have to go through tests and trials to see if I'm still down, to see if I'm worthy enough to take this to the next level. You know what I'm saying? To see if I'm able to stand up there with the greats, the leaders of the Israelite community that has been putting in work for years. You know what I'm saying? And see if I'm able to assist them with bringing in the lost sheep. You know what I'm saying? Doing my part in the community. But that's the truth. You know what I'm saying? We about to wrap this up in a minute, y'all. Another mystery was the bones were removed from the graves. Some of y'all don't know that. I know a lot of people, they always say, people that don't believe in the Bible, they say, well, what about the grave sites? You know what I'm saying? Why we can't find the graves of Moses and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob? Why we can't find those why we can't find those bones? So let's look at it. Jeremiah chapter 8 verses 1 through 2. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 1 through 2. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 1. At that time, said the Lord, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves, and they shall spread them before the sun and the moon and all the hosts of heaven, whom they have loved. So, all the prophets and our forefathers, foremothers, that we love. Even the sisters too. Sarah, Susanna, Abigail, Jael, all these sisters that we read about. Queen Esther, Ruth, Naomi, all these sisters, their bones was removed too. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we can't find the grave sites and things like that. That's what the scriptures say. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 1 and 2. The bones were removed. The enemies removed the bones from the grave sites. That's why we don't have any bones of anybody. You know what I'm saying? That's the answer for people that don't believe in the scriptures. That's a mystery that we, a lot of us didn't know about. I didn't know about it before I came into the truth, but that is right here in Jeremiah chapter 8. Those bones were removed. Let me see. That might be a heavy topic. That might be a heavy mystery. I'm still trying to work with my wife on understanding this one, but we are regenerated. That's a mystery that a lot of us don't understand. Regeneration, Christ was actually talking to the disciples about it. Matthew chapter 17. And let me see. Matthew chapter 17. That's when Christ was talking to the disciples about who Elijah was, you know. And there's another scripture too, where Christ revealed, about the blind man. The blind man actually, when the disciples was asking him whose fault was it that he was blind, was it his fault or was it his parent? And Christ never asked him, what do you mean it was his fault? You know what I'm saying? Because he was blind from birth. How do you sin before you're even born? Christ didn't ask that question. You follow me? So, it was understood that they understood, the culture at that time, they understood about regeneration. Now, some other cultures, like you might look at the Chinese or the East Indians, some of them believe in not regeneration, but they believe in reincarnation. It's a difference. Regeneration is you regenerate through DNA. You come back spiritually through your bloodline. That's regeneration. That's what Christ and the Israelites believe. Reincarnation, that's another thing behind the veil that, that is an ideology that's in the earth, but our foreparents, they didn't believe that. You know what I'm saying? Reincarnation, what other cultures believe, reincarnation is when you come back as a bird or you come back as a butterfly and stuff like that. We don't believe in that, but we do understand that there is cultures that believe in that. Now, the deeper understanding is, do they cast spells or do they do rituals where they can entrap the spirit into a creature or something like that that's not human? Who knows? Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but that's not for us to know how to do if it's possible. You know what I'm saying? That's something that's behind the veil. If it is possible, only God knows. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to learn how to do it. All you know is that through Christ's understanding, we regenerate. You know what I'm saying? Be humble as a child, like the scriptures say, and just know the things that we're supposed to know. You know what I'm saying? So let me see. Where we at? Matthew 17:10. And his disciples asked him, saying, why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? And they're talking about Malachi chapter 4 and 5, I believe, when the scriptures say that Elijah, which is Elias, must come first. So let's get that real quick. Malachi 4 and 5. Let's try to understand, the conversation that's being talked about. So Malachi 4 and 5. Malachi 4 and 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So that explains the topic that they were talking about. I don't want to go deep into it because we already coming up on 2 hours, and that's gonna be our time. We got like almost 15 minutes left, and we still got a lot more left on this. So I might just try to leave the rest of it for a Bible study class during the week. I will try to do Bible study classes Wednesday nights from 6 to 7, and I might do like a second part to this lesson on Wednesday night. But anyway, so it says, and the disciples asked him, saying, why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? So they're talking about when Malachi had prophesied Elijah's regeneration coming back into the earth. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Elias, which is Elijah, truly shall first come and restore all things. Because Elijah was a mighty prophet, but he came back, excuse me, as John the Baptist, and he set the understanding of what's supposed to come, which is Christ. But I say unto you that Elias, which is Elijah, is come already. So Christ is saying he came already. The disciples like, what? You know what I'm saying? Elijah came already. Well, who was he? Because everybody was asking who was Elijah. They was even asking Christ, was he Elijah? You know what I'm saying? They was asking everybody who was Elijah. And Christ gonna reveal it right here. And they say, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist. Regeneration was a thing that they understood. And at that time when Christ was speaking, the disciples understood that Elijah was indeed John the Baptist, regenerated. You see what I'm saying? That's a mystery. So let's go to the next thing. So remember, the topic is looking behind the veil. What's behind the veil? Things that we should know and things that we shouldn't know. That's a mystery that we can know. Regeneration is a heavy topic. That's a heavy topic. Knowing that you're gonna come back, but yet not knowing who you are. That's a heavy topic. That's spiritual understanding that it's a faith builder, because it's good to know that the Most High shared something like that with us. But to what extent? How does it work? We don't really know the full scale of it. You know what I'm saying? We don't know the full scale. But we do know that there's a meaning behind it, because Elijah had to come back as John the Baptist and help us to remember things. And I remember one class, Bishop Nathaniel was saying that Elijah would have to return in our time again to prophesy again before Christ returned, because that's the order of things. What happened before time would happen again. You see what I'm saying? And that's what King Solomon was talking about in Ecclesiastes. Let me get that real quick, just so y'all can understand what I'm talking about. Ecclesiastes was when King Solomon talked about regeneration. I do a class on that one day. It's a fun topic for me. I like talking about regeneration. That I think every culture, everybody, whoever you are, you believe that you've been here before, or things like that. People talk like that all the time. But to what extent, we never knew that understanding was in the Bible until you come into the truth. You get it? So right here, Ecclesiastes, it says, I just give you an example. We're not gonna run through the whole thing, but Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 7. Or we'll start at verse 9. The thing that hath been is that which shall be. So Elijah was somebody that ate locusts and he dipped it in honey. And John the Baptist did the same thing. In regeneration, it says the thing that hath been, which was Elijah, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. We all come back. Eventually we all come back. You know what I'm saying? And that's how regeneration works. All right, let me see. All right, so coming down to the end of the class, and like I said, I'm gonna save some of the rest of this for next time. And pray that y'all got some understanding out of this class. I didn't really get to too many of the scriptures that I wanted to get to, but like I said, I'll probably touch on some of that in Wednesday's class for Bible study. I'm gonna start posting some things for Bible study class, or probably possibly going live, because I do like this live video, so we'll do it like that. I want to close out with something. Let me see what I got to close out with. I want to close out with what the Most High, because this is very important. What the Most High loved us enough to know behind the veil, which is how much He loves us. Let's see how much He loves us. We can go behind that veil and see how much He loves us. Let's check. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. He said, look, I'll let you know. I'll set you on high above all the nations above on the face of the earth. That's something that we're able to know. You know what I'm saying? How much he loves us. That's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's a blessing. And at times, you know, when you're going through your tests and trials, that might all you really need to know. You know what I'm saying? He might not tell you something deep, or, you know, you might not go through the scriptures and get the answers you're looking for, you know, for something. But if you go back to that scripture in your mind, that's all you really need to know. Keep that scripture in your spirit. You know what I'm saying? And Deuteronomy 28. Yeah, that's why I wanted 28 and 1. Yeah. So I just want to end the class right there. You know, I hope y'all had some good understanding, and Lord's will, y'all will see some new faces up here pretty soon. You know, brothers ready to do the work and, you know, get out there and, you know, push this gospel where it needs to go. You know what I'm saying? That's the work we need to do, you know. And that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. Love y'all. So I always want to end with a song. This is the song I chose to end for today's class. Let me see. Just keep your faith in me. Hold on and patiently. You'll be where you need to be in due time. Even when things are slow, hold on and don't let go. I give you what I owe in due time. That's a song that I like, you know, when I was going through my test and trial. It's from Outkast featuring CeeLo Green. It's a heavy one, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I like to end the class, on a good, positive, good feeling note, you know, with a song that y'all can hold on to throughout the week and, you know, sing when you need it. You know what I'm saying? I hope these scriptures edified y'all, and, you know what I'm saying, keep the scriptures close to you. You know, study, pray, meditate, apply. You know, and I'll talk to y'all later. Shalom.